All right, welcome back to another episode of the More Than Outdoors podcast, the podcast where we talk about the people, places, and passions that drive Maine's outdoor recreation economy. As always, Austin French,
Sam Andrews.
and we are here in Camp MOES, another awesome episode. And you may recognize the gentleman we have hanging out next to us, our first recurring guest on the More Than Outdoors podcast, uh, the director himself, Jeff McCabe. Jeff, welcome back.
Wow, thank you for that introduction. I was thinking the last time I was on the podcast was a day of probably 100-degree temperatures, and we met sort of lakeside, and to be here at the Holiday Inn in the middle of the winter is very fitting.
Big contrast.
Yeah, big contrast. But no, it's just been such a fantastic experience. We're at the halfway point here for the MOES conference. We've just had an amazing morning. Part of the afternoon has been fantastic. Last night, celebratory event, a film festival that was standing room only. So
Wow.
yeah, really feels good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We can feel the energy at this MOES they're bringing it. People are bringing it because there's just so many people here and coming from different parts of the industry. So it's interesting to see like kind of the collaborations that are happening just amongst, land managers and nonprofit, executive directors, and then there's people from Congress here. And so can you talk a little bit about the audience and like who shows up to MOES? Like what is what is the audience?
Absolutely. It's interesting this year because there's a number of folks that this is their first MOES. This being the fourth MOES, it's great to have new folks. There's a lot of returning folks. And then there's a great representation of the entire industry. As Sam alluded to, there's folks from nonprofits, there's folks from state agencies, we have owners of businesses, we have innovators in the outdoor recreation industry, innovators in manufacturing of outdoor products, business owners. We actually have the head of outside media here, Robin Thurston. Just talked to him.
Yeah.
Austin's over here getting his contact information. I think they're probably already social media buddies. And
We're connected on LinkedIn.
So you see the power of networking. And so, that right out of the gate, when you walk around this afternoon and you see people having conversations, having a cup of coffee together, that's really powerful. When we have sessions that are extremely successful, folks are engaged, that's awesome. The audience participation has been fantastic. I was getting ready this morning as we were about to kick things off, and I was like, where is everybody? And then all of a sudden the doors opened and folks started pouring in, so we can see who the early birds are and who is just getting there right around the start time. But it's great to see such great representation from the industry. But it's also fantastic to see the statewide representation. We have folks from northern Maine, we have folks from southern Maine, western Maine. So that's always a success in my mind. When you can bring folks from all around Maine together to just talk, strategize, network, and share experiences and overcome challenges too by being together and talking through them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting those northern Mainers down to southern Maine, into Portland.
I reside in Skowhegan, and I feel like, it takes me a pilgrimage sometimes coming down the hour and a half. I don't come to Portland often. I get here, it's, in the world of technology, a lot of times now I'm just Zooming with Portland, but when I get here, it's good to be here. And it's also important to recognize that Portland is really a hub, for the outdoor recreation industry. So much of our economy here in the state of Maine is driven by some great things that are going on in Portland. There's some great outdoor recreation businesses. I don't have to tell Sam this, but she's engaged in outdoor recreation in Portland and is guided out of Portland, and it is a place that people from all over Maine and all over the country and all over the world want to come to. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like this is a hub and it seems like a great reason for having this location here. But I know that this conference has kind of moved around, and so was there a certain draw that brought us to Portland? Was it because of that centralization?
Yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily its geographical location.
Yeah.
I would say space is a big issue. We in Maine sometimes struggle with a venue that can hold 350 plus people.
Yeah.
And have breakout sessions. So when you're talking about having 5 or 6 sessions going in at any given time, a room large enough to hold over 400 people
Yeah.
at any given time, it's a little limiting. And then also, we wanted to experiment and try this in January.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, we've done it in November, and we recognize for a big portion of the outdoor recreation industry, November is not a great time just because of certain types of businesses. And then also, January is also a tough time for folks in the ski industry and some other businesses. So, trying to find that sort of sweet spot when it comes to what is the best time of year. And then also availability. We were pretty excited to know that the Holiday Inn by the Bay had space.
Yeah.
And then, I will say over the holidays, we saw, our registration numbers sort of dip off. And then once the new year hit, it was like every day the registration flow, like we had just opened the floodgates. So
good.
That was powerful to see. It's also a testament to sort of our branding and messaging and people really, hearing about MOES, which is great. It's important. The word of mouth helps.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Totally.
Well, I've loved the beginning of MOES. Every year it kicks off with like these activities, and it's kind of like this test of, all these different businesses or trying Nordic skiing, or this year, we had some winter activities that were happening. So going into a sauna or visiting like the Kindling Collective Gear Library. And so I think that those are a great way for people to go and interact with these businesses. And then they like meet people, and then they come to this conference, and then they have those familiar faces and have those local connections, or have been able to see a local business, which is really awesome. And I've loved the weather being a nicer weather to be able to go like mountain biking or like do some kind of an active outdoor activity. But I think that that's like a special thing from this conference that you don't normally experience at others. I mean, you've been to so many conferences that you like. What sets this one apart? Like you're like the conference king. So
it's I appreciate that and recognizing a fair bit of my job is seeing what other states are doing. It's collaboration with other states. Having that opportunity to see what's happening in other places is always helpful.
Yeah.
I do know, though, that people like to come to this conference. We have folks that are from out of state because they do like those experiences that we offer to kick it off. I also think, we are a model here in the state of Maine when it comes to partnerships. The partnership that we have with Maine Outdoor Brands is something that many states that have a business alliance similar to Maine Outdoor Brands, or many states that have an Office of Outdoor Recreation, they are envious, I would say. They also want to know like what they can do to try to replicate that model. MOES is just one example of that partnership. I think it's probably our most public facing example of that partnership. And so, the fact that, a public entity, a state agency, such as the Maine Office of Outdoor Recreation, having that partnership with a private entity, Maine Outdoor Brands, is unique. But there's other partnerships that exist here in the state of Maine. Maine Office of Tourism has a strong, long-time relationship with the Maine Tourism Association, which is very similar. They have the Conference on Tourism that they are now actually trying to replicate the partnership that we have. But I will say MOES is unique too, because we have a planning committee of folks from the industry who are gathering, who are selecting, the programming, are getting people's input, both past participants, but also through surveying, folks in our network of things that they want to see. And, I value that. I have ideas for workshops. I have ideas on how workshops should be done, and then it's really that steering committee that's making those decisions. So things will change, and also it's helpful. I sit in a state agency, and that's a lot different than folks that are out.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, which is so important to hear their input and their feedback. And I think, Sam, you talked about the buzz, you talked about the feeling, and in a moment in time when the world is heavy, to be able to get together and just share success, but also to talk to other people about challenges is so helpful.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think allowing enough time for the conversation to occur when we are thinking about like what are those challenges that we're facing as a whole, as an industry, or within specific pockets. It's like, how many times in the year do we actually get the opportunity to like sit down and really dive into it? And like, we've committed to being at the conference, so like you already know you're here for 3 days, and now all of a sudden like you're getting to surround yourself with all these people that are like oftentimes thinking about very similar things to you, and like everybody's trying to bring their own spin to like how can we solve this? Because like collaboration has been like a word that has been thrown around probably 10,000 times at the point in the conference already. And I think that's so much of what not only makes this conference unique, but like that's Maine's outdoor recreation economy in a nutshell, right? Like we're the only way that all of this stuff is going to happen is when we're doing it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing us all together and being a big part of it, Jeff. I know you're up there in front of the crew, kind of orchestrating it all and making sure that it happens. So, and I know that Mob is a huge part of it as well. And there's so many players in this, but it feels like a great, I've mentioned it, like kind of like a family reunion, like everyone coming together.
Yep.
So it's really cool to have this every year and to look forward to it. So.
Yeah, and it is a family reunion, and it's like at the same time we're meeting these like new cousins for the first time, and it's like we're welcoming them in, and it's like we also created this roadmap, and it's been about a year since we launched the state's roadmap on the outdoor recreation economy. That was a collaborative effort across the industry. I think not everyone made it to our launch because it was a snowy day at
up in Millinocket,
up in Millinocket at the New England Outdoor Center, which. If I'm going to the New England Outdoor Center, I want it to be a snowy day, but I think, for the launch of
be inside, maybe not.
Yeah, but we did get out that day. We went cross-country skiing. I actually did an extra loop with Sam Shirley from the Maine Hudson Trails, and it was some of the best networking that I've done in a long time.
Yeah, Sam will be on this shortly. He's going to be coming down shortly.
Oh, good, good, fantastic. And just thinking about the roadmap, we have had a lot of time over the last year to sort of reflect as part of the implementation of the roadmap. And we did have a session yesterday where we highlighted the implementation and things that people are doing to actually complete key steps in the roadmap. The other piece that we've done is all of the breakout workshop sessions at this event, all the keynote aspects are all tied directly into the roadmap. So we're showing people that this is a roadmap that we're not just creating, we're using it.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep using it over the next 10 years. And we're going to update that thing.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and I love the fact that you're able to use the conference as a mechanism because, like, as we know, right, we have those 4 overarching goals, but then there's so many of the strategies in there, and there's, like, all of the different pieces that make each of those things tick. It's like, how do you try to describe that in more than, like, yes, we built the roadmap, but now what's all the stuff, like, when we're out there doing it. So I love the fact that like there is that connection because I know like Jenny had brought it up in one of her sort of talks in the beginning of things of like identifying the fact that the roadmap is a tangible thing that has real outcomes and with all these strategies, like when you have these things that are happening on the ground, there's no other way to really talk about it outside of like, let's bring everyone together. Let's highlight the fact that some of these things are already happening. Hopefully that sparks additional ideas around like how those things can start to really happen in different pockets, and then all of a sudden we look 3 years from now and we're like, I can't even believe where we've made it to compared to where we were, right? And and at least my understanding in talking with all of you, right, that was one of the main visions behind why we needed the roadmap, right? Like how do we make sure that we have that like common pillar of like here's the vision, here's our North Star, and that's where we're going. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming back on, and congratulations on being the first recurring guest.
Yeah, I'm excited. That was quite an honor, and I'm going to be like, when can I get back on again?
I'm sure we can figure some stuff out. Is there anything kind of upcoming with the office that you guys are kind of looking at over the next couple of months?
I was thinking, it is legislative session, so there's always a level of engagement. I think a lot of the work that we are currently doing with legislators is just continuing to remind them that the roadmap exists. We've invited legislators to come to MOES and check it out, which is a little tougher. So I think that, we do have some folks that are going to be bopping by at different times. But what we are going to do is probably bring the roadmap and the great work of Mob and more
Mhm.
to the State House, and there's a Hall of Flags Day, which I should know the date. Maybe after this segment, you're gonna have to edit in what the actual date
That's
is.
fine.
But we will be in the Hall of Flags. We're going to be talking about this great work. We'd encourage you all to think about trying to come. Maybe we could do a podcast in the,
That would be
under
cool.
the dome, which I literally just thought of, and I knew that you would agree to that.
That
So
would be cool.
that's good. But I would say that event, and as always, watch for the mob, scenes and those networking opportunities. And I think a big thing that we need to think about too is, just see what's happening in the industry and making sure that we're showing up more for each other.
Yeah.
And I think, I think that's a good thing to do, in the times that we're in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Awesome.
Well,
Cool.
we will see everybody outside, and hopefully you outside next time we're out of this conference.
Yes.
We can go for a little adventure with Jeff.
That sounds good. I like a good adventure.
Yes. Cool. We'll see you outside.